Pamela, may I help you?
I'm sorry, you said this is Family Protective Services and this is Pamela?
Yes, correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, where are you located?
8700 North Simmons Freeway.
Okay, I have a couple questions, Pamela. Is it possible to speak
Yes,
with a
ma'am.
caseworker for education?
Do you have a case here?
What do you
mean
for some
by
reason they keep closing them. What are the options for a party that is experiencing child abuse? That is reporting child abuse. What are the options if they're not getting resolutions over the phone?
They have a case here?
I'm not getting resolutions over the phone. And I wanted to know how Child Protective Services protects a child if a party's not getting resolutions over the phone.
Okay, do they have a case here? Or do you have a case here? Whoever you're looking for.
They keep closing the cases without doing proper investigations. And then multiple times they did not do an investigation at all for like 30-something reports.
Okay, hold on. Hold on a minute. Hold on 1 second, please.
Okay.
Hold on.
These holes are a critical part of the harassment schemes because it's to violate. So when I'm making these calls, it's repetitive holds, sometimes 50, 20 minutes. At one time, it was almost an hour that I was on hold for it to not get anything resolved. Most of the times they hang up after the hour holds. It's on purpose. So what I'm trying to establish is the government's abuse of power and corruption.
Ma'am, I apologize for the wait. Okay, now you were saying you had a case here, but they closed it, correct?
Right. Your name's Pamela?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I would like to know the options of speaking with a caseworker. The availability. I'm sorry?
Okay. If the case is closed, this office doesn't have anything else to do with it. But if you would like to make a complaint, I have the ombudsman's number.
Okay, so ma'am, what I'm trying to establish, what I'm trying to get, resolutions and answers for. There's no supervisor. Are you saying that can I ask questions, ma'am? I can't answer questions. Get questions answered as Child Protective Services.
No, ma'am. You can not once it's closed. You can.
You're not letting me talk. I don't know why multiple parties try to distract me and cover for crimes. So I have questions, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so you're saying that there's no way calling Child Protective Services or coming in, I can speak with the supervisor. I can't speak with the supervisor and escalate. Period.
No, not if your case is closed.
Okay, so hold on. I keep getting distracted, ma'am. Okay, so I can't speak with the supervisor in person.
That's okay.
I can't speak with the caseworker in person.
No, ma'am. Not once it's closed.
Okay, so you know what I think is happening, ma'am? I think the government is committing crimes, having me call counterfeits, ma'am. And I think that they're having a multitude of people commit crimes with them. And even if the government's behind it, it's still criminal. Now, let me tell you how it was before you guys started breaking into my phone and being conspirators in crimes. I came in 2018. No, it was 2019. And we tried to report the child abuse. Okay, I was speaking to a caseworker. Then they were getting a caseworker for me. Then the police interrupted it. Okay? Now that they have incriminated themselves, they entice businesses to commit crimes with them. So now what you guys do is you blatantly lie, and try to convince me that the only way possible is to get on my phone and repetitively call these scammers that cover for every experience that I ever go through. Now, the way that I know you're lying is because I went to the Ledbetter location. They said that I can go into the Stemmons location and do the report, and they were completely oblivious that you guys weren't taking reports there in their CPS. Ma'am, I'm trying to expose the conspiracy, ma'am, and the criminal activity that the government has set up multitude of people to conspire with, and it's still criminal when you guys do it. If you're Child Protective Services and the government entices you to cover up for child abuse for profit, that's a Class A misdemeanor. Not reporting suspected child abuse is criminal, and if multiple CPS staff workers choose to do that, even if the police department's involved, it's still a crime. And I'm trying to get you guys do everything possible to get you guys your charges. Because this went on long enough.
Okay,
So,
ma'am.
ma'am, I'm not understanding how in 2019, that's the problem, ma'am. Because the switchboard on the phone and the in person, the gatekeepers, the receptionists enforced that I don't speak to anyone that with resolutions. So this can continue to go on.
Okay,
So
ma'am.
what I want to know,
Ma'am,
I want to know why your guarding caseworkers and multiple parties have been dishonest and Child Protective Services refuse to protect my daughter.
Ma'am, listen to me. I have other people on the line, but you can come down here if you like, but they're going to tell you the exact same thing that I'm telling you on the phone.
Ma'am, I wanted to know when it changed, and why multiple parties can't get their story straight. Why would Child Protective Services, under the circumstances, refuse? Well, you have a responsibility as a receptionist for Child Protective Services and not cover for crimes.
Okay, I just answer the phones. I don't do anything.
Well, you need to get someone else on the line if you're not covering for crimes. Why did it change when I was there in person and the police interrupted my report of child abuse? You're still a conspirator in the crime.
Sure,
well, I'm asking to speak with a supervisor or someone that can get resolutions.
The abuse hotline is 1-800.
I'm not asking for the hotline, ma'am. I would like to get things resolved on the phone, and I want the parties that consistently keep enforcing these crimes and child abuse and covering up for them to get the consequences they deserve. So this is the 8700 Stemmons location?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and you're telling me that there's, ma'am, you're being rude, ma'am, covering for crimes, ma'am. So you're saying that there's no way on the planet can a parent that Child Protective Services has enough compassion and care to take a report in person, or no way an avenue a parent can get anything resolved in person on the planet?
I told you.
No, ma'am, I don't want the options. I'm just trying to establish a pattern that multiple parties are aware that my phone's getting hacked, because a lot of people does not know this exists. So what they do is they manipulate, and the parties that have hacked my phone and counterfeited my calls, they have these other agencies commit crimes and try to enforce that I speak to these scammers and get nothing resolved for years. So what I'm trying to do is show a pattern that who's behind my child custody rights getting hindered, which is a felony. Multiple parties. It's not my fault that I go to CPS locations and all of them want to be conspirators. They are fully aware of what they're doing, and they still can choose to do it. If you let a police officer and allow you and talk you into enforcing child abuse, that's still criminal. Yeah, Child Protective Services, you have decisions and you have choices. And if you choose to be a conspirator and enforcing child abuse and lying and forcing me to talk to the counterfeits on my phone, that's still criminal. So, ma'am, I'm trying to get something resolved because I haven't been for years. I would like to meet with someone in person and report child abuse and get something resolved. And you're saying that's impossible? I cannot do it, period.
Ma'am. I'm going to have to put you on hold. There are other people on the line and at the window. So you can come down.
Well, ma'am, disregarding someone is a form of psychological abuse, ma'am. If I'm reporting child abuse and I told you there's multiple parties that's involved in it, why would you disregard that? She put me on hold without saying anything. So, in my opinion, they did it with my son. The only thing that will interrupt this pattern is for someone to stop it. They're not going to stop. They're going to keep continuing to do this chaos till they get caught. I pay a phone bill forcing me to talk to scammers. It's criminal. My life is violated routinely, daily. How can you imagine how that would feel to have a phone that you can't even call for help on? That you have to call corrupt people that are enlisted to violate and keep you in jeopardy and cover for crimes on your phone 24/7, guarding who you talk to?
Okay, hello?
Yes, ma'am. I want resolutions in person.
Okay.
Are you telling me that it's impossible today in 2022 to talk to a CPS worker and get anything resolved reporting child abuse? You can no longer do it 2022, period, in person. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, you can come up here, but they're going to give you let you have called a hotline where they're with you.
Right, but if I'm telling you I'm not getting resolutions and the government is forcing me to talk to scammers, I don't know why you're depriving me of the right to speak with someone in person, a supervisor, or a case manager with education.
I just told you could come up here.
Okay.
But they're going to give you the same information.
Okay, well,
All
what
right.
is the
Have a
point
great
if the
day.
caseworkers
Okay.
and caseworkers and supervisors are guarded? Why would you guard them?
I'm not guarding them. I'm just giving you
If I
the
can't speak
legal.
with the supervisor to report inappropriate behavior with the
Yeah.
caseworker in the report, you are guarding them. So I would like to know if there's
No,
any
I'm not.
possibility, I could
Ma'am,
speak with someone in person on the planet that I can get me an investigation for the child abuse multiple parties
you
refuse
can
to
come
investigate.
down here, but they're gonna still call the hotline for you and let you talk to them.
Okay, so
You can
when did
come
that
down here.
start?
We don't
When did
have
that
any
start, ma'am? Because when
problem.
I came in person before the police interrupted, you can casually walk
Well,
into Child Protective
ma'am,
Services
we
and get
don't
a
even
child
have to
protected.
go through all the
We
this
do because I'm
today.
trying to get people
Just
the
come
charges they
on
deserve,
in.
ma'am. If the government don't have
You
common
can
sense and
just
endangers other people by letting a stalker control them, that is something that we need to discuss. So when did it change? When did the
okay. You
policy
can come
change?
in. I'm
Ma'am,
not sure. You can
I
ask
want to
the
know when the
worker. You can
policy
come in.
changed and why you're covering for crimes, ma'am.
Ma'am,
This is random.
this is the switchboard. Could you hold on, please? Hold on, please.
So you may be saying, just go on, accept the fact that the government is allowed to win and keep me away from my children and family out of corruption. Some parties may be, sadistic and think, just get over that. Don't see your kids. Life goes on. Well, even with my not having a relationship with my kids, relationships are sabotaged in person, at churches, and I'm isolated out of corruption in person. I don't get my calls back when I meet people. That weird things happen. I believe someone is contacting these people, and it gets weird. I don't want to be ostracized and isolated. That is very painful and hurtful for me. I would like to have a choice. And I don't want someone sabotaging every relationship I have out of their sadistic behavior and insanity. And even sicker, I don't want the government to consistently be allowed to enforce this man's abuse. I cannot get any services all over the place, and I repetitively keep saying that and have said it before COVID. If a psychologically abusive man that is also not very sane is running the government, what do you think he's capable of doing, and how many other parties is that in danger? I initially thought that COVID was a part of their abuse because a school also shut down when I started a new job with a flu epidemic in Itasca, the same one that was failing my daughter out of malice, making multiple false statements in the community, slandering me, and it was obvious false statements. The police would not investigate it. They even went to the degree of failing my daughter out of malice. I kept the grades. She worked really hard on her grades. She was a high A student. I kept the grades and showed it to the police. They did. At that time, the police was not corrupt. She did talk to the school, and they changed the grade to from a 40 something that she was going to make for the whole school year. They got away with this semester, the 6 weeks prior, and she failed out of corruption. So I went to the police because they kept doing it. So I kept all the grades and showed the grades to the police. The police had them change the grades within 5 hours to an 80, and she was really making a 90. But they did change the grades to the 80, high 80, like a 85, 86. But then the police became corrupt, and that was one of the arresting officers that lied and said
Okay,
I
ma'am.
evaded
Thank you
arrest
for
and
holding.
assaulted the officer. Yes,
Hello?
ma'am. So
So, were you coming here, ma'am, to this office?
what will I get resolved? Or will I
Okay,
speak with a supervisor or a case manager? Because multiple parties try to enforce the crimes that are being committed out of corruption, which I thought.
you cannot talk to
I
the
thought,
one
ma'am,
that's on
is this if this
for
is child
today.
protect? Because you don't have a lot of education. You like you said, you're just a receptionist. So why would CPS guard information on protecting children?
I'm not sure.
Well,
You
we
would
need to
have to
find out,
get an
ma'am. We need to
attorney for
find
that.
out. If you're covering for crimes, you need your charge. This is Child Protective Services, ma'am. You do? Are you aware of that?
Yes, you can get
Okay,
an
ma'am.
attorney.
Hold on. Let's
Like
dissect
the
this,
number
ma'am.
to
Let's
legal
dissect
aid.
this, ma'am. This is Child Protective Services, and you're refusing to do so. Protect a child.
To do what?
I call for Child Protective Services, and you're refusing to give me information and feedback on how to protect a child.
You're on the phone. Okay, you're on the phone wasting time. If you would like to protect the child, you can come down here or call the 1-800.
Okay, so when I come down there in person, well, then what happens?
I'll let you talk to. I'll call the worker that's on duty for today, the investigative worker, and then you all will have to call the hotline to make a report.
Okay, well that's a start. Even though I know it's the government's running it. I guess they want to try to make the cover up a little bit more better, and try to keep themselves safe in the corruption. So now I guess you're allowed to have an operator. But ma'am, here's the thing: not reporting suspected child abuse is a Class A misdemeanor. So why can a case manager not do it? Is she not wanting to incriminate herself? Why would a social worker refuse to report child abuse? That doesn't really make a lot of sense. So would she force me to call the hotline because she don't want to incriminate herself and she want the party on the phone to incriminate themselves?
Yes, call and let her know you're here. Thank you.
I'm not understanding why a case manager could not report the child abuse and not doing so as a Class A misdemeanor. Why would they have me call someone to take the blame for the crime that's being committed?
You have to get an attorney for all of that, ma'am. But you can come down here.
Ma'am, no. Why would you refer me to an attorney because you guys are committing crimes and don't want to take on your responsibility to report children? Not doing so is a Class A misdemeanor. Why would Child Protective Services scheme as well as multiple parties change the law up?
Hold on a minute. Hold on, please.
And then threaten to tell me I need an attorney to do what they're supposed to do. So, like I was saying, this puts other parties at risk when they can just change up the law and let a stalker control them. The school shut down over the weekend. We picked up our kids Friday, and I had this new job that I was going to work Monday. I told multiple parties that I needed to work this job while my daughter was at school because I didn't have a sitter. Then the school shut down over the weekend. Am I saying COVID has escalated to the extreme? But if a government does not have enough sanity to not let a stalker control them, a stalker would absolutely think it's okay to think of an illness. So a person could have the rights that they had schemed multiple times, 4 or 5 times a day, criminal trespasses. I knew that he was insane when he thought he can give me a criminal trespass everywhere on the planet and was getting away with it. I would be at hotel rooms panicking, laying down in the bed, trying to enjoy the shelter momentarily, and they knock on the door, beating at the door, telling me to leave. And then I started to ignore it. Then they said they break down the door. I wouldn't open the door because I know that they were scheming. Nothing has happened. They had no right to come beat on my room, the hotel room, when I was already panicking. It's afraid for my life, not knowing what I do for the future because I couldn't afford to consistently stay at hotel rooms. And I was blacklisted from services all over at all the shelters out of corruption. So I was panicking and trying to relax or have any kind of peace in the hotel room, but still was panicking. They beat on the door and then tell me when I wouldn't answer it, tell me they break the door down and nothing has happened. So when they got to, incriminated themselves from coming out of nowhere, they just didn't care. They would just beat on the door, violate, mistreat, and force me to leave. Then when they realized that wasn't really logical, someone had to be setting it up. Now they entice the businesses to do it. But don't get it misunderstood. Everywhere I go, even churches, someone is there to sabotage, even friendships. And it's sick. Another thing I expressed, which is why initially I thought that he was behind the COVID, there were strange masks in my feed before COVID. All these COVID masks. It was creepy. Why would you take Facebook? It was all these friend suggestions and different communications where they had on masks. Why would you take a Facebook picture with a mask on? All kinds of masks. And he put all these strange conspiracy theories, things in my feed. I didn't think it was true. I didn't think conspiracy theories were true. He was trying to show me what he was about to do. I wouldn't read it. A lot of people don't know that you can hack a Facebook. My friends their accounts got hacked. We had videos and all kinds of chaos in the feed of police murdering people. All kinds of chaos and sick things were in my feed. I was blocking everybody on Facebook. But I didn't realize that someone was doing it. There was a lot of emotional abuse in there with people making fun of me, getting bullied on Facebook, online. Just like the YouTube comments, trolls. It was new because my friends would post positive things and I would get really inspired because I would select friends that a lot of pages that were inspirational. And then it became toxic because someone was controlling it. So I had to back from where I got so much peace. I had a lot of ministers that, I subscribed to. And I'm not even going to tell you what happened with that.
Okay, ma'am.
A lot of things were counterfeited.
Okay, go ahead.
So, yes, ma'am. So now you're stating that a CPS worker can no longer report her abuse herself. We have to call a hotline.
Yeah, you have to call. She's going to call the hotline too when you get here. So
is she going to withhold information? Are they going to withhold information? Because normally they cover for crimes when I see them in person. They don't want me to know my rights, and if I was supposed to be getting an attorney, they don't want me to know.
You can talk to a caseworker when you get here, okay?
Well, thank you. That's a start. Even though I know it's controlled.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, you're welcome. Okay.
Bye. So I guess whoever's controlling this is allowing me to speak with a corrupt caseworker to get nothing resolved. So I have a choice. I can go in person and play games with them. I will. A lot of times that this is designed to be emotionally abusive, he likes the avenues in which distress can be caused. It's kind of harder because I'm in here protected in this apartment. He don't have Metro PCS to violate. I'm not answering the calls from his minions. So then he enlisted my family to start confusion and then taunt me in different ways. So then when I leave, a lot of other chaos that you just wouldn't believe is happening. So I won't report. But there's a lot of someone is taking a lot of inventory or abusing a lot of power to make sure my environments are controlled, even going into stores to shopping. I know that doesn't sound believable to a lot of people, but how else would they know to try to scheme and take my change and overcharge me, tell me to get out when I'm trying to get food, and I've traveled on the bus line trying to get food, and then they tell me to get out, strangers, a multitude of them, and actually serve someone food in front of me and then deprive me of food and then told me to get out or they call the police? This is just random. Someone has been abusing power, controlling every environment prior to COVID. So in addition to that, that's why I think that it was possible for someone to be jealous and abuse power, to have the lights off at a theater trying to prevent me from meeting anyone with a new wig on. And I'm not saying that's definitely what happened. I'm saying that could be a possibility because a power like that has been abused in the past. So one thing I need to work on, I do get hysterical and it affects the way that I communicate. I've been going through this chaos years. I'm ready for it to end, and I do absolutely get hysterical in these events. It may not show, but it affects the way that I talk and I communicate. So I guess a learning curve would be for me is to calm down and be able to effectively communicate and not be so panicked to the degree that I do. Okay, well, let's see what happens when I go in person. What crimes they commit in person.